plans for final victory in World War II, occupation and control of Germany. But more important, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin dedicated their nations to the foundations for permanent peace through a United Nations organization. Crushing Germany from the east and west, the Allied armies met at the River Elbe and joined hands in celebration of victory. Russia and the United States, with their allies, had fought the good fight together. Final victory was in sight. Man's hopes of lasting peace were high. But the great architect of victory was not to see the final triumph. Suddenly, President Franklin Roosevelt was dead. Mourned throughout the world, he left in the United Nations organization the framework for lasting peace on earth. World War II ended, and in Tokyo Bay, General MacArthur spoke for all people.
Pray that peace be now restored to the world, and that God will preserve it always.
Meanwhile, in San Francisco, delegates of 50 nations had met to form the United Nations organization. President Truman came from Washington for the signing of the historic charter. Foreign Minister Molotov of the Soviet Union lent his presence to the solemn and hopeful expression of man's resolution to live in peace. The nations were united. The Big Five, China, Russia, Britain, France, and the United States, led the peoples of the world as they launched a rule of international law and a Bill of Human Rights, a rule of law they believed no nation, large or small, would dare defy. The United Nations was set up, a tribunal empowered to mediate international disputes and to enforce its decisions. Soon, this machinery was put to the test. In Indonesia and elsewhere, people felt the strong desire for independence and the control of their own destinies, and this had been seen in the United Nations Charter. A Republic of Indonesia had been set up, embracing a large part of the island empire, which had until then been under the rule of the Netherlands. Civil unrest broke out in the Republic and the other islands. Although the Netherlands had recognized the new republic, differences arose, and the Dutch began military operations. In July 1947, the hostilities in Indonesia were brought to the attention of the Security Council of the United Nations. The Council immediately issued a ceasefire order and appointed a committee of good officers to aid in the peaceful negotiation of the dispute between the Netherlands and the Republican leaders. Guided by the United Nations Committee, the two parties to the dispute signed a truce in January 1948. Hostilities broke out again in December. Jakarta, capital of the Republic of Indonesia, and many other towns in Java and Sumatra fell to the Netherlands forces. The Republic adopted a scorched earth policy as refugees fled before the Dutch forces. The Security Council met in emergency session in Paris and again called upon the parties to cease all military operations. The Council recommended the establishment of an independent United States of Indonesia at the earliest possible date. The United Nations Commission was instructed to assist in negotiations. A roundtable conference between the Netherlands and the Indonesian Republic began in The Hague in August 1949. With the help of the United Nations Commission, the conference agreed on a charter of transfer of sovereignty and on main points of future cooperation between the Netherlands and the United States of Indonesia. The United States of Indonesia, embracing scores of islands and including nearly 80 million people, was a reality, and late in December 1949 at The Hague, Queen Juliana of the Netherlands signed the document which transferred complete sovereignty over Indonesia to the Republic of the United States of Indonesia and recognized it as an independent nation. The question had been peacefully resolved.